Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab here with Charles Bishop. We're in the H&P Arena. We were courtside, and that's why we're a little bit late getting started to give you an update, as we had a little difficulty with the Wi-Fi, as you see here, but we're gonna make it happen. We wanted to give you an update. So welcome to episode 608. Into the new year, you know, we always trying to give you a little more update than those things. So we'll give you some scores throughout the game, give you some updates. We know some of you might be finishing out the CFP as it was moved today, but turn that on mute and just keep us going and make sure you get us in here. Welcome to episode 608 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab and Podcast, a show that's covering the sporting HBCU diaspora, all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small, from the NCAA to the NAIA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics, to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports, and HBCU athletics aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports. For short, we just call it the HBCU sports pedagogy. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington. He's out on assignment. Charles Bishop, along with Wilton. And we have AD Drew. We'll bring them in there shortly. But we're filming from our home studios, literally this time at Texas Southern University. The home studios are on campus. Studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, multi-Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper, as you know. Beautiful home at Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. I'm going to switch real quick and let Charles give you some updates because we have a little different variation. This is the first year of this, so we wanted to bring it to you differently. Women now play their first game on Thursday. You still have your double headers on Saturday, and then you have the men's showcase on Monday. So women's showcase on Thursday, men's showcase on Monday. So you got all women's games today. We're here at Texas Southern University, and give us the updates of the score here, and then give us the updates of the other ones as well.
Yeah, we'll take a quick look at these updates. All games are right now in the first period of play, but Texas Southern on top of Grambling 10-7. Alabama State on top of Arkansas Pine Bluff 16-12. Southern on top of Prairie View early in that game 10-5. And Alabama A&M on top of Mississippi Valley 22-6. All games in the first quarter of action.
Yeah, early blitz by Alabama A&M on the new coach.
Early statement.
Yeah, it is. Sure seems like it. Yeah. With that being said, let me start with you, AD Drew. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, fellas. I'm doing fine. And I've got a statistic for you all since we're talking about scores. I got one for you, Dr. Cavil.
I like it.
Do you know how many shows that you did in 2024? How many Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Labs aired in 2024?
I know that in July, we did show 500 around that time. Okay. So I could give you 160, but the 50 or so before that, I'm not sure. So do you have the answer to this great question? Trivia.
All right.
Question? Before you give it, let's go to Wilton. I want to see if some of the lab listeners can get it. Then we'll come back.
Let's see if anybody can put it in there.
We'll see if anybody puts it up there. Wilton, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Doc. It's a new year. You know, I'm glad to be on the show with you guys again, and it's good. Like basketball season, we turned the calendar, as Charles would say, like during football season, like some schools it's time to turn the clock to basketball season. Now we're really in basketball season. So it's going down, and I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, some folks are glad to be here, like Norfolk State, Alabama A&M. Norfolk State on men's and women's.
Yeah.
Alabama A&M on the women's scene. We'll see what that men's on the men's a little early, but
real happy to get the basketball season for some program.
Oh yeah.
But with that being said, let me go back to you, AD Drew, with the wonderful question, because I'm glad Wilton didn't try to sneak one in for the 2025. I was watching this commercial advertisement from a math nerd, is what I call him, because I am one itself, so I can do that, where he was just talking about how this year is the squared year, and there's so many different ways where you can do squared. So I'll share that information with you, AD Drew. I know you'll appreciate it as well. But with that being said, with the great quiz of the day, I gave people plenty of time. Did any of our lab listeners get close to it or get it right?
Let's see. Let's see. Let's go to the screen and see if anybody. No, nobody was brave enough to put one in, but we did 132 shows last year.
Hold on.
Yeah, I was about to say,
That deserves a clap.
Exactly.
And double clap for AD Drew for putting that together and making sure that not only he proposed the question, but he had the answer.
Yeah.
Right.
132, right?
132. And by the way, Dr. Cavil, show 500, you were a little bit off. Show 500 was actually in April.
Okay. Dang, was it? And I just celebrated in July. Thank you for that. All this is escaping. That's crazy.
That's
132 ways, 365 days. That's a little over
about a third of the year.
Every 3 days.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
132 shows, man. That's
pretty
congratulations. And not to be tooting my own horn, but I probably either appeared or produced about 100 of those 132 shows.
Oh, it's very close. If it ain't 100, I'll be mad because you've been right there. Serious enough. Appreciate you. And Wilton is right behind you. I mean, he started late, but he's been very consistent. Once we picked,
I know he got a good 75 of them, man.
I was about to say at least a good 55, 60. I would say that.
He's part of the 50% club.
I know exactly.
Wait a minute, hold on. Let me be quiet before it's about to slip. It's about to slip. Unlike the man whose name in the jingle. Oh, he came all the way out.
You know what that means? Everybody go answer like how many Mike has? Maybe 50. Looks like Mike. How you gonna have the least amount of shows? We're gonna hate him later. He's big brother, so I'll be careful about that. With that being said, before we get into this,
thank you, Travis.
Before we get into the first one, what did Travis say?
I must be doing the math for you since it was that far off.
On a serious note, let's say prayers. We don't know what this is, but we talked about Greg Ruffin getting the Shaw job the last time we was on the show. Last couple of shows we heard about it. On Tuesday we actually put it out there, and unfortunately, yesterday we get the news that Greg Ruffin declines the head coach position due to health concerns. We were in our chat and we kind of had some concerns about that. And AG Drew jumped up there because he knows Greg Ruffin. And like many of us do when we know a coach, directly we'll reach out by text or call them or do both and say congratulations and let them know that if we could be of help, if they want to come on the show interview, we usually open it up. And so we had direct relationships. If not, we go through the SIDs. But if we have it directly, we're going to try to make it work and make sure that we do what we do to showcase the program. But we text Ruffin and didn't get a reply, and that was kind of odd. And then AD Drew put out the first, and I came back and confirmed. I did as well. We hadn't even talked to each other about it, and that's when we were kind of even more concerned that it is probably pretty serious. And I want to be very careful because I don't know anything of what it is. But regardless, the fact that he put a statement out there from the university that is health concerns, let's make sure we say our prayers that everything can be okay with Coach Greg Ruffin, and we'll worry about the coaching opportunities next. So I want to say that publicly. I've talked to Greg for many years, and he's a good guy.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know him from Jackson State and the other success. He's rebuilt a lot of programs.
Yeah.
That was kind of became his niche.
Yeah.
Go into program startup or restart programs and get them going. And so it looked like he was going to have a job to restart to some degree, if you would, at Shaw, but it's not to be so. Serious thoughts on that. With that being said, did you want to make a comment on that, AD Drew?
Yeah, I just add, it was a little shocking to me because me knowing Greg like I do, and how long he's been trying to get back to the top job, because he has been coaching since he last was head coach at Edward Waters, but how long he's been trying to get to the top job, to get a top job, and then not be able to fulfill the obligations of being head ball coach. I mean, the first thing I'm like is, oh my God, what is this? Because, somebody who coaches with the passion and the level of commitment that Greg has coached with, it's definitely concerning. And for those, if that name sounds familiar to some people, he is the cousin of Reginald Ruffin, who's the former head coach at Miles College, former head coach at Tuskegee University, now athletic director at Tuskegee University. And if I remember right, I believe Greg is slightly older than Reginald. Don't quote me on that as far as age, but I will say they are first cousins. So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff, and great point that you make there. With that being said, let's go around and see if there's some other news that kind of that's on your mind. We'll start with you, Charles. Any additional news?
Yeah, let's take a look at it. And the rich keep getting richer. When you take a look at it, Jackson State.
I was gonna say, don't say that.
Yeah,
I know you're talking about.
Yeah, Jackson State transfer portal. They picked up Mississippi Valley State first team all SWAC wide receiver Nathan Rimbert, as he's committed to Jackson State. So a huge coup for TC Taylor, Coach Otis Ridley, in terms of picking up one of the better receivers in the SWAC. He'll be joining a Jackson State squad that looks going into the spring. They're kind of loaded again. They got some pieces coming back. So we'll see what happens with that.
You too, Will. Everybody getting excited with their new coaches, and they sit up there chest out. We got some new toys.
Hey, Charles,
parents are well off. You gotta come out there with the other toys.
Now Doc done put his allegiance.
With people.
He done took his allegiance back from Jackson State. Now he might have to bring it back a little bit.
Hey, trust me. I always got a piece of my allegiance over Jackson State. They treats me well. Now that will not. Y'all make sure it's known, because I want to continue to get that love when I go into Jackson. Yeah. I step out that airport, man. I got folks that you need to ride.
They do know you're on the Jackson.
Nah, that's real.
Be on the plane, they want to talk to you, convert. What you think about this? Whatever. You know this person? I like, man.
Yep. You are a star in Jackson, Mississippi.
I don't know what you call it, but they sure make sure I'm treated okay. You can call it what you want. You got to be
Charles, all I'm gonna say is buyer beware, because Jackson State is starting to tread into FAMU territory with the amount of hate that is coming you guys' way. I am going to say that.
Are you seriously like tread into hate category? It's been there.
Nah, you know something? With all fairness, Charles, when FAMU came into the league along with Bethune-Cookman, we took over the hate category for a while, but you guys are doing everything in your power to take it back, and we will gladly let you have it.
You know who you took it over from? Which the Southern fans might get a little mad at this. It was Southern. It's always been Jackson. It's a little bit of Southern. We ain't heard much hate from Southern, and we'll figure out why that is. But it's all shifted first to the East Division.
Sure.
It was the top two of the hates being Jackson State and FAMU. No wonder that both of them have recently won not just the conference, But the HBCU champion in some people's mind, obviously the Celebration Bowl in terms of the bowl and the trophy associated, which often comes with a National Black College Championship. With that being said, let me go to you, AD Drew, and see if there are any news that you want to talk about China.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a little bit somber. Obviously, we competed against the FCS playoffs today when we were not expected to be competed against the FCS playoffs because of some ignorance that happened in New Orleans on yesterday. And then while I was working the game today, I've heard there's been a couple other incidents around the country that may have happened. We heard about the incident in Vegas last night. I was making a joke. You guys had computer problems coming on. We having Y2K problems with computers in 2025. We had problems with ONG Strike Zone with technology issues, but technology issues pale in comparison to the real life issues that are going on out here. And I just want to just say, pray for our country, y'all. Whatever God you pray to, pray for our country, because as an athletic administrator, the incidents that happened at the Sugar Bowl is honestly one of my worst fears as an athletic administrator, that something like that could happen on my campus that I'm working at. We saw what happened with Tuskegee earlier this year. Who was it last year? It was what was it? Morgan State. We've seen these incidents happen on our campuses. So one of my worst fears is that we relax I go. And for those of y'all who get, excuse my language, who get pissed off because they want to pat you down, whine you, put you through 5 metal detectors and everything else before you come to our football, basketball, baseball, or whatever game on our campuses, hey, now you understand why. I'm on my soapbox.
Oh, absolutely correct. Condolences to those families that lost individuals, and we wish those families well in terms of people that are still hospitalized.
Yeah.
I'm careful in terms of the prayer terminology because in some ways I think it's just frankly overused. So I refuse to use it from that perspective. Not that I don't believe in a higher being, but I think it needs to be used seriously in terms of those in positions to do better. And people trying to separate the difference between domestic and international terrorism is an issue with me. And folks that won't do anything about the guns that terrorize folks is just as troubling as anything. And to try to separate it like one is worse than the other when you talk about loss of lives, to me, it means no difference. So with that being said, maybe on a different note, let me go to you, Wilton Jackson, before we really take our first break. As we alluded to, I'd be unfair if I didn't give you a chance to share what's on your mind in terms of some of the news of the week.
So a little news that I have is about Buddy Pugh. He's going to be serving as South Carolina State's interim athletics director. His university searches for his new person to fill the job after Nathan Cochran, who spent 1 year in the position, left the program to pursue other opportunities. That comes from the Times and Democrat newspaper. Of course, we all know Buddy Pugh, the longest tenured South Carolina State football coach in history, served there for 22 years and a winningest coach of the program.
I'm fascinated that I would be surprised if he doesn't get full time. This role in the role, obviously, he'll have a lot of say whether he wants it full time.
Right, that is true.
But with that being said, I was surprised, frankly, with Dr. Cox. It seemed like he was enjoying it. So to hear that he wants to express other opportunities, I wonder, did he get wore out that fast in terms of that, or unfortunately, is it something else that was the way they did it because he's alum to make it a positive note and allow him to be able to serve.
Makes sense.
Not that I need to know, but it's fascinating because it's such a short stint before he decided to go in a different direction. It's fascinating. That being said, end of the first quarter over here at Texas Southern, 14-14. As they start the second quarter, you have Southern up on Prairie View, 20-9. Alabama A&M has stretched its lead to continue to make its point over Valley, 37-8. team.
Oh my.
Well, we got a game down there in Montgomery with Arkansas Pine Bluff beat Alabama State 22-20. With that being said, let's take our first break. We'll come back on the other side and get things going. It looks like we're getting a close to the final CFP there, and Notre Dame.
They got it done.
Making a statement.
Am I the only person rooting for Marcus Freeman?
No, you're not.
Okay. Do I need to overstate the obvious on why?
No.
No,
Okay.
Some things don't have to be said. It's just what we do. We know what we're talking about. That being said, let's take our first.
You know.
The other side. And we'll get into some more basketball talk, to be frank. We'll lean on AD a little bit and see if we can get some updates, his thought on let's start with the NAIA, since we didn't give them an update last week. I was still a little bit paused, so we can just give some general updates and you can give us an update of when they really get back into it. And then the third segment, we'll get into a little D2. Final segment, we'll come back to Division I, give you some final updates and some final thoughts of what you see ahead of us in the conference play. That being said, let's take our next break and come back on the other side.
Morehouse College and Tuskegee University men's basketball teams were selected to compete in the 2025 NBA HBCU Classic presented by AT&T. The fourth annual NBA HBCU Classic will be played in the Bay Area as part of NBA All-Star 2025 and will once again celebrate the rich traditions, on-court athleticism, and commitment to excellence of the HBCU community. For tickets, visit nba.com/all-star.
Greetings, Panthers. My name is Roland Austin, and I'm one of the directors at the 1876 Athletic Foundation. The 1876 Athletic Foundation was formed to promote the success of all 343 student athletes. Our overall goal is to fund scholarships for all of our student athletes. We ask that you help us in achieving this goal by donating to the 1876 Athletic Foundation via the QR code below or 1876.foundation. Your generous donation will help us continue to assist the needs of all of our Panther athletes. Thanks, and go Panthers.
At AutoMasters LLC, our mission is to serve our community by providing quality automobiles at affordable prices. All of our vehicles are inspected and certified to offer you the confidence in knowing you have a quality vehicle. Our goal is to provide you with a seamless process and positive experience for your automobile purchase. Financing recommendations and specific vehicle inquiries are available at your request. You can find us at www.automasters06.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Also, please feel free to contact Terrence Miles at 601-927-7794. And oh yeah, tell him Sonia sent you.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington. He's out on assignment, but we have Charles Bishop, A.D. Drew, Wilton Jackson the second. Man, Wilton, I see some of them pictures you put out there. Why you doing the women?
Hey man, I'm just trying to stay as young as I can while I can, because I know one day I ain't gonna be so young.
Okay, I just making sure. I see you showing out like, damn, bro. Oh, we gonna be that.
Damn, Will.
I'm just saying. I just had to ask the question.
You know, I just try to slide them in at the end. You know, just recap here and just try to put it at the end and just keep moving.
Okay, yeah, you slide it in, huh? That's the term we use now.
This man. This man here.
80 Drew. Let's get back on the course and talk a little about basketball, NAIA style. What are your thoughts in terms at the NAIA level? I know Langston, surprising enough, one of the things I saw with Langston that they have lost 2 conference games. Sooner Athletic Conference on the men's side, still doing well. It's still dominating, but I don't think they had the second loss
Right.
last year until we were deep in February, maybe. Have 3/4 of the way through the conference play. So kind of give me your thoughts in terms of some men, women, wherever you want to go with it on the NAIA programs. Give us an update.
Let's start off on the men's side, and let's start off in the conference that has the HBCU moniker, the HBCU AC, or the HBCU Athletic Conference, where Steelman sits at the top with a 5-1 record. Charles's neighbors growing up, the Tougaloo Bulldogs, are sitting tied for second in the conference at 4-1, and Suno is also tied at 4-1 in the HBCU AC. The other teams that are above 500: Philander Smith 5-2, Wilberforce at 5-3, Dillard at 3-2, and UVI is sitting there right at 500 at 2-2. And if I could pull up this young man's name from Suno.
While you doing that, I want to remind everybody that the HBCU Athletic Conference is deep. They get 2 automatic bids to determine now. Is that correct? I think you told us about that. Remember, the HBCU AC now consists of Dillard, Oakwood, Philander Smith, Russ, Southern Suno, Stillman, Talladega, Tougaloo, Virgin Islands, Voorhees, Wiley, and Wilberforce.
Yeah. And what I want to do is shout out the athlete that everybody needs to put on their radar is one Jamal Gibson at Southern University, New Orleans. He has a remarkable streak of double-doubles. It's something ridiculous, like 42 out of 43, 43 out of 44. I done lost count. But oh my God. And this name that I'm about to throw out to you guys may not ring a bell to you guys, but there was a guy who played for Harris Stowe in St. Louis called Deshaun Munson. And that's who he kind of reminds me of with the kind of stats he's putting up. Munson was a rebounder and scoring machine. Munson couldn't hit a jump shot outside of 15 feet, but he give you 30 points and 20 rebounds. And I haven't seen Gibson play, but just looking at the numbers, this kid is putting up remarkable numbers on the men's side. Charles looks like he has something he wants to say.
Yeah, because I was curious, what's the backstory on Gibson? Like, he has like a remarkable backstory, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, I was sent it in my one of my links from Suno. I glanced at it. I don't want to misquote it because it was one of them things. It got sent to me while I was busy doing something else, and I didn't go back to it. So, but I do know that is the one thing that stuck out with me is all the double doubles, and they asked, could they did they have any comparison? And I threw out Munson at Harris Stowe, like for them to look at as far as comparison. And on the women's side, I don't know if you guys remember LaQuanza Glover, who played at Edward Waters on the women's side, but she had like 60 double-doubles in her career as a student athlete, including about 4 or 5 20 games in her career. So those are the only 2 things that I could think of as far as a comparison to what this young man is doing.
Let me ask you a question, AD, and I know it's early in the season, but you're always on the pulse of what's going on with regards to NAIA basketball. Like, who are the teams to kind of pay attention to as we start to get rolling more so into the season?
As far as the HBCU teams, we lost Charles there. But if we're talking specifically about the HBCU teams, you need to focus on Tuscaloosa, Alabama this weekend into early next week. They had HBCU conferences playing a pod in Tuscaloosa. Let's see who comes out of their pod because they're playing 4 games in 5 days, if I recall, starting on tomorrow. So let's see who comes out of that pod. Either will we have separation after that pod in Tuscaloosa, or will we have even more confusion as teams that get bunched up in the middle? Then you can come back next week, Charles, and ask me who to watch, because I think that's gonna separate the contenders from the pretenders. 4 games in 5 days, almost tournament style, right there. Langston 11-2, but like Dr. Cavil said, those 2 did occur in conference. 7-2 is their conference mark. 11-2 overall. One other HBCU on the men's side that we always like to keep an eye on is Florida Memorial. And Florida Memorial is sitting 1-2 in the Sun Conference, 8-4 overall. I'm gonna let you guys throw anything before I jump on the women's side quickly.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say Xavier, Louisiana is another one to keep your eyes on the Red River Athletic Conference. They currently
I forgot about Red River. Yeah,
9-2, 8-1. Yeah, it always kind of sneaks out there, but they have like 5 HBCUs. The rest of them are under 500 pretty much in terms of conference play. So we'll leave it right there in terms of the men, in terms of what they're getting done. Let you go ahead and talk about the women's side.
Speaking of Xavier, Dr. Cavil, and I'll start off in the Red River this time since I left them out. Once again, Xavier is the only team in the Red River that's above 500. Right. Oh, wait a minute. That's the wrong. Make sure I'm looking at the right page. Red River. Yes, Xavier. Perfect. 12-0 on the season, Dr. Cavil. Yeah. 9-0 in conference. Paul Quinn is 5-5 in conference, 6-7 overall. That's really the only other team in that conference. Houston Tillerson sitting right there at 5-5 in conference. Also, flipping over to the Sooner Athletic Conference, our Langston Lady Lions, 8-1 in conference, 12-1 overall. So that's 2 teams that we need to keep an eye on.
That's right.
On the women's side. Going to the Sun Conference, Florida Memorial, 10-1 overall, 3-0 in conference. You know, hey, we 3 for 3 so far. And now let's go to the HBCU AC. The Tigers from Stillman. Stillman lead the men and the women in the HBCU AC. Coach Dunk has his ladies at 6-0 up there in Tuscaloosa. Dillard comes in second at 4-1 in conference. Voorhees, forgot about Voorhees is in that conference, Dr. Cavil. You may have said it. I'm just throwing it out there to you. 4-2 in conference, sitting in third place. Fisk, 5-3. They were the runners up last year in the conference. They're 5-9 overall, 5-3 in the conference. And Tougaloo is 3-2 in conference, 6-6 overall. Going back to Dillard is 7-4 overall, and Voorhees is 8-2 overall. So that's
much like Norfolk
report.
State. This is a great one. Much like Norfolk State at the Division I level, there's 3 programs that are in the basketball business for both men's and women's.
Florida
Langston. Yep. Florida Memorial out of the Xavier out of the Red River Athletic Conference, and Langston out of the Sooner Athletic Conference.
And throw Stillman in there, Dr. Cavil.
As well, right?
Yeah, throw Stillman. Stillman's in first place at men and women.
Men and women, good one, out of the HBCU Athletic Conference. So we'll kind of continue to see if both of them can churn and maintain the level what they're doing on both sides of the ball, which is a whole nother story to see what that looks like as the season progresses. With that, let's give an update on our scores, and then we'll take our next break. We'll come back on the other side and give you our NCAA Division II basketball report.
Yeah, let's quickly take a look at some scores around the conference, around the SWAC. Texas Southern on top of Grambling, 27-18, 2:42 before half. Alabama State on top of UAPB, 26-25. That game is at halftime. Southern on top of Prairie View, 30-21, about 2 minutes and some change before halftime. And then Alabama A&M, halftime score, 45-21 over Mississippi Valley. So those are your scores from around the SWAC thus far with the women.
Good stuff, good stuff. Shout out to Coach Norman. I know he shows some love for his Langston Lions getting it done in the basketball business. With that, let's take our next break. We'll come back on the other side and give you a little D2 talk.
Looking for the ultimate cultural experience of 2025? The Zora Outdoor Festival of the Arts is where you need to be. From January 31st to February 2nd, Eatonville, Florida will come alive with incredible live performances from the Levert Experience and the Bar Cave. Immerse yourself in interactive art. Shop from over 80 vendors. Take a journey through history with a new virtual tour app. And enjoy family-friendly STEM activities. Plus, don't miss the unforgettable R&B tribute to the legends, honoring talents such as Whitney Houston, Marvin Gaye, and Luther Vandross. This is more than a festival. It's a celebration of Eatonville's rich cultural heritage. Visit zorafestival.org for tickets.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Sonia from She Say Sports. Make sure to check us out every Friday morning at 9 a.m. on Black College Sports Network, YouTube, and Linktree. And please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page.
Morehouse College and Tuskegee University men's basketball teams were selected to compete in the 2025 NBA HBCU Classic presented by AT&T. The fourth annual NBA HBCU Classic will be played in the Bay Area as part of NBA All-Star 2025 and will once again celebrate the rich traditions, on-court athleticism, and commitment to excellence of the HBCU community. For tickets, visit nba.com/all-star.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We got updates galore going, and we hear the bouncing basketball as they're out there having a good game over here inside H&P Arena, with the two Tigers tangling between Grambling State and Texas Southern University. So see if we can get out there and get the end of this matchup. But with that being said, it's time for our D2 report. We're going to shift it back up to you, Drew. And this time, Wilton, we'll let you do a question. You got a question that you want to ask him as he gets started, or you want to wait until he gives a part of the report?
Go ahead and wait till he gives his report.
All right, we're gonna start with the ladies. CIAA. We'll start off with the in-conference. Virginia Union 4-0, 9-3 overall. Bowie State's 4-0, 10-6 overall. Virginia State is 2-1, 8-3 overall. That takes care of the North. And in the South, Shaw is 3-1, but they're only 5-7 overall. Fayetteville State 2-1, 6-5 overall. And Livingstone sits at 2-2. 4-8 overall, and the CIAA is off until Saturday.
One of the things that's been interesting for me about the CIAA is how much over the last decade the basketball has kind of slipped, but the football has it's
gotten better.
Yeah, it's just a conundrum for us that have been following the CIAA and SIAC for that matter for umpteen years. It's just amazing with that. Any thoughts from you is just how it's flipped so much?
Yeah, I mean, the default is to call, the East Coast teams the basketball, teams. But it's been a sort of an interesting look-see with regards to CIAA basketball over the past few years.
And I think you'll see a little different frame when AD gives his report on D2, but looking at the SIC. But before he does that, Wilton, you have a question you want to jump in here and
Yeah, I wanted to ask you this, Eddie. A lot of times you kind of know certain teams that are probably going to be the most elite teams, specifically when you look at the CIAA. But is there a sleeper team that we should probably know about more than anything so far, kind of going into or just diving into conference play?
I like Lincoln for what they have done on the women's side, what they have done the last couple of years. If you remember, who was that? They beat Delaware State was it last year, 2 years ago? Lincoln is always one of those teams that's sneaky. They'll come in and really surprise you come tournament time. So if I had to pick one team to keep my eye on, let's do Lincoln. Lincoln right now overall is sitting 5-8. They're 2-4 in conference, but it's still early. And they're one of those teams come late February because they're conference tournament is always the last week of February. I wouldn't want to be in the same side of the pod with those Lady Lions.
I agree with you. Great point. Let's do SIAC.
All right, switching over to the SIAC. And Charles, thank you for reminding me how the CIAA has passed the SIAC in football. I just had to personally thank you for reminding me of that with them going 6-0 against the SIAC.
They did go 6-0.
But we did not get back on hardwood. Anyway, first of all, we just left the NAIA report, Dr. Cavil. You cannot start off the D2 report on the women's side without talking about Coach Eric Jackson Jr. and Edward Waters. Charles,
previously at Ross.
And Charles, I have to ask the question: will there be people in Jackson, Mississippi, come March, who will be upset that you let Eric Jackson get out the state?
It remains to be seen.
You can always bring it back.
Well, I mean,
it's not today he's going to do well.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Remember, yesterday's price is not today's price, and today's price is not tomorrow's price. I'm out here negotiating for you, Coach Jack.
Well,
anyway,
you know, one thing they say about Mississippi, you can always come home.
So. That is true.
That will. Well,
let's be honest, bringing home a different bag between D1 and D2.
Yeah.
No matter how good the D2 is doing, usually it's a little different bag.
Well, you would be bringing home a coach that has started off 7-3 in his inaugural campaign, 4-2 in the sitting in first place. Sitting right behind them is Clark Atlanta, 3-2, 8-4 overall. Allen at 7-4 overall. And that's kind of a shocker right there. If you're looking for your sleeper team, Wilton, that might be the one that you may want to call the sleeper team thus far early. In the West, it's miles is to lose. It's always miles to lose in the West when it comes to the SIAC. 5-1, 7-2 overall. Central State 4-1, 5-5 overall. Lane 4-2, 8-4 overall, and Spring Hill is 4-2, 5-7 overall. So those are your top teams that we have in the SIAC. Miles, I'm sorry, Jackson, you're doing a good job. But until somebody beats Miles, it's Miles' conference to lose. And there are a number of games on schedule in the SIAC tonight, both on the men's and the women's side. Just quickly going over some of those games. Lane has already defeated Albany State, Central State, Benedict, Kentucky State, Allen, LeMoyne, Fort Valley, Miles, Clark Atlanta game got moved to Tuesday, and earlier today, Morehouse defeated Spring Hill in men's basketball. So, any questions before we switch over to the men, fellas?
Go ahead, keep going.
All right, switching over to the CIAA men. Virginia State 3-0 in conference, 8-4 overall. Lincoln of PA 3-0 in conference, 8-5 overall. And those are your only teams that are above 500 in conference, although Bluefield State is 7-5 overall, but they're only 1-2 in conference. Going to the South Division, Fayetteville State 2-1, 9-5 overall. Johnson C. Smith 2-1, 6-4 overall. Shaw 2-1, 7-6 overall. Claflin 3-2, 9-6 overall. You know, it's so refreshing. You're so used to hearing Johnson C. Smith when it comes to basketball. You know, we're not so used to hearing it with football like we've heard the last couple of years. Just had to throw that out there for everybody. Moving over to the SIAC's men, as my page refreshes. Clark's 5-0, 8-4 overall.
Clark is in the business of sports now.
Wait a minute, hold up. Oh, dropped my hat. I was getting ready to put my Morehouse hat on so I can talk about Morehouse being in second place, 4-1, 6-6 overall.
That's pretty good.
We fix on the drop.
Flag on the play.
There you go.
Emma Waters 4-2, 5 overall. Albany State is 3-2, 6-6 overall. On the west side, Miles 6-0, 9-2 overall. Tuskegee 3-2, 5-6 overall. Those are your teams that are above 500. Game to note. Game of the day on Saturday. Men's basketball. Number 2 East Morehouse. Number 1 West Miles. 1 o'clock. Nice. Maroon Tiger Sports Network. www.morehouseathletics.com. Go and watch the game. This is going to be a battle. Yes, I am self-promoting, shameless plug, but we are out there. That's not going to be a game that you want to miss on Saturday. 1 o'clock Eastern, 12 o'clock Central.
Good stuff. Let's take our next break. Give us our score updates.
Yeah, some scores around the SWAC. Texas Southern on top of Grambling, 31-23 at halftime. But we started third quarter in Montgomery, Alabama State on top of UAPB, 30-27. Southern on top of Prairie View, 31-23 at halftime. And still at halftime, Alabama A&M and Valley A&M on top of Mississippi Valley, 45-21.
The OVC has men's and women's today. They play Thursday, Saturday, and they still do the men's and women's games together. So you got Tennessee State losing to Southeast Missouri. Tennessee State is at home, and the score is 74-62. A minute left in the fourth quarter, so that looks like it will be a daunting. Remember, you also have the men of the CAA playing on Thursday and Saturday, with the women on Friday and Sunday. You have A&T at home, but they're losing to Elon 45-34. It's at halftime. You have Hampton that started off the season really well, got that big win over Howard, the Battle of HU on the hardwood, and they got it done, as that was on CBS Sports. They were at 8-5, but they're on trouble of dropping a conference loss, as they are losing at halftime on the road to Charleston. That is 10-3. They're losing 35-42. With that being said, let's take our last break. We'll come back on the other side and talk about a little bit of women's basketball. What do you think of tonight? What's going on thus far? Your ideas of this Thursday, how it's picking up, what are things that you're going to kind of be looking at early, what this look like. It's kind of hard to get a measure now. Students are still out. Sure. So we got to keep that in mind. And then we'll talk a little bit about the big doubleheader on Saturday, when things really get to going for both men's and women's, and maybe a little shout out to the men's on Monday. Sure. With that being said, let's take our last break and come back, and we'll do just that. This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab, where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, people trying to get down. It's like a loop machine.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Looking for the ultimate cultural experience of 2025? The Zora Outdoor Festival of the Arts is where you need to be. From January 31st to February 2nd, Eatonville, Florida will come alive with incredible live performances from the Levert Experience and the Bar Cave. Immerse yourself in interactive art. Shop from over 80 vendors. Take a journey through history with a new virtual tour app. And enjoy family-friendly STEM activities. Plus, don't miss the unforgettable R&B tribute to the legends, honoring talents such as Whitney Houston, Marvin Gaye, and Luther Vandross. This is more than a festival. It's a celebration of Eatonville's rich cultural heritage. Visit zorafestival.org for tickets.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Let's get into the talk of the Division One and give you some updates in terms of the look at, and we'll give our last updates in terms of some scores before we close out. But with that being said, what are your early thoughts in terms of the SWAC? Let's start with the SWAC with you, Charles, and then we'll kind of get everybody's input. And regard, you can do both men's and women's. What are your thoughts in terms of SWAC?
I think looking at it earlier, I think the teams that I was going to really be kind of paying attention to was Alabama A&M. They had a strong non-conference season. I think they come into SWAC play 7-5. So Don Thornton coming over, bringing her brand of basketball from UAPB to Alabama A&M. And then this team out here tonight, Courtney Simmons' team from Grambling. They seem to be ascending last year. So real curious to see Texas Southern on top of them early in this matchup. So those were the two teams I was really paying attention to. And then just listening to what Courtney Simmons was saying about, putting the emphasis, so to speak, on this part of the schedule, because she didn't feel like her team was really getting much out of the non-conference.
That's fair. Yeah. Wilton, I'm going to ask you from this perspective, based on what you've seen in terms of non-conference play, has there been any surprises in a good way or a bad way in terms of either men's or women's programs that's kind of caught your interest before we get into conference play?
So in terms of the SWAC or MEAC?
Let's start with the SWAC, and then we're going to come back and talk about it.
Not necessarily from the SWAC. I think right now it's the way I look at the SWAC, specifically from the women's side, is like a bag of marbles. Like, you really don't know who's going to be the top team. And Charles kind of alluded to the fact that, like,
talking about the wicked witch of the East.
Yeah.
I guess in basketball, it's really not. So we can say East.
I mean, you
gone. So it's everybody. Grambling was in there, but it looks like they maybe took a step back. So continue.
Yeah, no. So that was to my point. Like it's kind of like you thought Grambling coming into the season. I know for a fact, to Charles' point, I definitely had Grambling as one of my favorites. And it's still to say that it's not to say that they can't, but that's definitely a team that I'll have, that I'll be having my eye on and looking at. Obviously, Don Thornton and Alabama A&M, what she's been able to do, and I think more so than anything is that I think she's really out to prove a point, because a lot of her success kind of in some ways got overshadowed by Tamika Reed at Jackson State. I'm just gonna keep it real. It just did. Like Tamika Reed,
yes,
right. Like Tamika Reed, what she was doing at Jackson State really kind of just literally took over all of what was going on in SWAC women's basketball. So if I'm Don Thornton, it's like, obviously she's at a new program in Alabama A&M. I'm pretty sure she was never encouraged or motivated to lead Alabama A&M to reach new heights. She's definitely trying to do that this year. On the men's side, I'm looking at some of the standings. Southern is 5-8. Alabama State is 4-9. Alabama A&M is 4-9. But like I said, right now, these are the times of the year where it's like, okay, it's beginning of conference play. You weathered the storm in non-conference play, and it's like, okay, what do we really have? We know most of our records are not above 500.
Most,
if not all.
Okay.
if not, I was trying to be generous there, but just more so.
He was cheating over with the MEAC a little bit. That's what he's doing. He's cheating on the other side.
just a little bit, but it's just like you really now going to start to see what your teams are made of, as specifically in the SWAC once conference play starts.
It's going to be an interesting one because you don't have those folks that have kind of snuck out in conference play. You can hold on, maybe Southern at the best. But with that being said, SWAC, Drew, where are you with the SWAC, men's or women? Any surprises for you non-conference, or what are you looking forward to get into in terms of SWAC play?
Actually, my surprise is that everybody has a win thus far this year, because we've seen so many years where everybody comes in 0 for
15,
0 for the season during this time of the year. But what have we learned from non-conference play? Absolutely nothing. Most of the teams who we chasing these bags from, they're more physical than we are. They have bigger budgets than we do, because that's why we're chasing the bag from them, because we don't have the budget. We're on the road. If we've played 12 non-conference games, we've been on the road at least 10 of those non-conference games. So what have we learned except what seat do I sit in on the bus? That's really all that we've learned thus far at this point in time in the season. The biggest thing is who's injured physically, who's injured mentally at this time, because 1 in 10 really wears on not only the players, but it wears on the coaches and the coaching staff as well. Going
Particularly that first weekend. If you can't get going that first weekend, if you can get going that first weekend, you kind of get a different. You be like, hey, we're gonna let that work and let's get in the conference.
Anybody comes out this weekend 0-2.
Yeah, you don't want to 0-2 this weekend.
Yeah, you have to get a split this weekend, especially if you're the road team, especially on the road. You have got to earn a split. The one thing that I hope that these coaches got during the non-conference part is, were they able to figure out the rotation? Like, you may have played 10, 12, 14 deep non-conference because you was getting blown out. Let's be real. The SWAC play, these bitches, you're going to go 9, 10 deep. Ultimately, we know when it comes tournament time, most teams go 7, 8 deep come tournament time. But you have to be able to go 9, 10 deep right now. Have those 9 players really distinguished themselves to earn their playing time? That's what we're going to learn this first weekend and this possibly into that second weekend. And Dr. Cavil, before I turn over, there is one question in the chat I would like to get to before we end the show today.
All right, let's go ahead and keep it with you on the MEAC. What are your thoughts with the MEAC? A lot of it just seems everybody is focused on Norfolk State.
And for good reason.
Particularly the women. And I was going to say for very good reason. So anything else outside of that, or do you want to shine some more light on Norfolk State?
I mean, all the light should be shown on Norfolk State, with everybody just getting just trying to stay out of their shadows right now, because you got the best men's basketball team in HBCU basketball in Norfolk, Virginia. You've got the best women's basketball team right now. Alabama A&M is making a push. Don't get me wrong, but right now I would have to put Norfolk State number 1. Yeah. And when it comes tournament time, they get to sleep in their own beds because the tournament is in Norfolk, Virginia. Might not be in the arena, but it's in Norfolk, Virginia. So what more could you ask for if you're Norfolk State? Yeah. Stay healthy, stay confident, stay at home, get to the NCAAs. Hopefully, what I'm really interested to see is what both of these teams did in their non-conference. Have they done enough not only to not be in the first 4 games, but to possibly move up a line on the seeding thing because of their excellent non-conference play? That is the question. That's the $1 million question that is going to take us another 60 days to find out.
Good stuff, Charles.
No, I think I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of everything being chalked, but Norfolk State men's and women's program really standing out. It'll be curious once we get a little bit more into conference play if there's a Maryland Eastern Shore, if there's a Howard that punches back, if you will. So I'll be interested to see how things start kind of going along as we get toward the middle and late part of January.
I'll come to you, Wilton, with that. You do have Coppin State that has a winning
Coppin,
record. They're 9-7. They've been solid last year. They had lost their last game, but they're playing some really good basketball. Everybody else is under 500, but you do have a Howard team that you mentioned, and it's pretty solid, 7-8. Morgan State is right there, 7-8, surprising some folks. Maryland Eastern Shore struggling a little bit this year, 4-10. Doesn't mean they can't get it right in conference play. Much like Delaware State and Central and South Carolina State that are 3-10, 2-12, 1-15. But that 9-7 Coppin State, compared to everybody else, to me, is quietly a solid statement. With all the attention being on Norfolk State, rightfully so, it'll be interesting to see what they can get. Wilton, what are your thoughts in terms of the MEAC? Obviously, either Norfolk State or even Coppin State in terms of what they've been able to do.
Oh, no, I echo the same sentiments as you do, specifically with that Coppin State. That's not a team you want to sleep on at all. It's a reason that they went 9-7 in conference play. That's gonna and honestly, when you look at specifically on the women's side, when you look at teams that could potentially give some problems for Norfolk State, you definitely want to consider Coppin State and Howard. But I will say, as having had the chance to watch Norfolk State a lot last year and even up close this year, if for those that don't know Diamond Johnson, by now, she is a complete bucket.
Yeah, it's your fault if you don't know now. That's your fault.
Yeah, like she's having a phenomenal year. Like they just got Norfolk State just picked up their second win, second win against an SEC opponent on Sunday when they beat Auburn, and I know they beat Missouri early in the year. So to your point, Eddie Drew, you talk about teams like a Norfolk State. Typically, you might get certain teams coming in getting that 16 seed. I would hope that Norfolk State doesn't have to get a 16 seed.
Good stuff. Any last thing to do before we close?
Yeah, there was a question in the chat, and I'll put it up on the board. Blue Jacket for Life asked me, I hear there's a new format for the SIAC basketball tournament with first round games being played on home sites. Yes, that is what I am hearing also. First round games will be on campus sites. That should be the last Saturday in February, with the final 8 advancing to the final 8 on the men's and the women's side advancing to the host site. And the tournament is scheduled for, I believe, the 5th through the 8th. I have to double check the date, but it's Wednesday through Saturday, with the championship game being on Saturday this year instead of Sunday like it was last year. I have not seen what the actual bracket looks like as far as where the cutoff line is for that first round bye, but I do know the final 8 will be at the tournament site.
Good stuff. Final score here in Nashville, Southeast Missouri. Women defeat Tennessee State 75-68. What scores you got?
Yeah, quickly, Texas Southern opened up a lead here on Grambling, 39-25 here in the third quarter. Alabama State on top of UAPB, 43-31. 17 seconds left to go in the third quarter. Southern opened up a 9-point lead, 37-28 over Prairie View, and Alabama A&M big over Mississippi Valley, 52-29. That game is in the third period of play.
Fast things here. Obviously, keep your eyes out on Tennessee State men as they play their game later tonight after that women's game. So they should be kicking off, but we'll be off. But we do have some updates on the men's side from the Coastal Athletic Association. Hampton is going further in the hole. It is 54-38. That's Charleston over Hampton, 54-38, with 15:03 left in the second half. You have Elon pulling a little bit away from North Carolina A&T, 58-46. That's also in the second half with 12:13 left. Both of those games are on Floor Sports if you want to catch them out. With that being said, that'll do it for us. Go ahead, Drew.
Where's Ryan McGinty at, man?
He's in here.
Out there working.
He was setting us up. Out there working. He was setting us up, having us ready to go. Shout out to Stephon. They gave us clearance to get this done. Next time there's a home game that falls on a Thursday, we'll look at maybe doing it from the suites and see if we can get a little different format and maybe sneak a little bit of the action in for you from that perspective. But we really were going to have a thought process of trying to do a courtside, but equipment quite would not work for us as we were trying to get direct lines. But we'll work on that as well and see if we can ever so often give you a different perspective of what we give you a little more action of what's taking place out there on the women's side, particularly with this new format. It may work out for us. With that being said, thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports from Inside the Lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington Charles Bishop. Giving you that love again. We want to thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time right here. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. That's DrKenyattaCavil. That's on Facebook and Instagram. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab and HBCU Sports, Inside the HBCU Sports, I should say, on Facebook and YouTube. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles.
Of course.
AD.
Lecture.
Wilton.
Dismiss.